for the big decision that was made in Pittsburgh yesterday that can affect a lot of things now in the NFL getting ready for this Week 17. So we're going to start in Pittsburgh, where the Pittsburgh Steelers made the announcement we thought they might make yesterday. They're going to sit Ben Roethlisberger Sunday against the Browns. They've already won the division. They can finish no worse than third now in the AFC, and Big Ben's big arm could probably use some big rest. So the Steelers will turn to Mason Rudolph in what will be a rematch of that ugly brawl with Myles Garrett last year. But, Brandon, let's focus on Mike Tomlin's decision here to rest Big Ben ahead of the playoffs. You like this move?
I love this for a veteran player, for an aging player. Absolutely. Big Ben said this a couple weeks ago, and look, before I even jump into what he said, we always have to take Big Ben's comments with a grain of salt, because Big Ben is a drama king. When it comes to injuries, when it comes to his body, it's like, oh my goodness, you know, I'm about to go on IR, and then he goes out and play the next game, and he throws for 4 touchdowns. That's his entire career, right, Nick? So let's just be careful there. Yep. But Big Ben a couple weeks ago said, look, everybody in the NFL right now is dealing with something. Everybody in the NFL has an injury. And that's something that we say around the league. It's like after week 1, so you're fighting through something. So when you look at this situation, they have solidified their spot in the playoffs. Not a lot can change. So when you look at it, yes, I like it for Big Ben. You got guys around the league that manage their body, manage their arms a little bit differently. You go down to New Orleans, you go down to the Bayou, and you look at Drew Brees. Drew Brees doesn't throw the ball on Wednesday, right? Like, yeah, I was there for a couple of weeks, there for a month, and I saw this guy just sit in the back, just get the mental reps and go through the motions, but he never threw a ball. Teddy Bridgewater was the guy on Wednesday that led the #1 offense and threw all the balls to the wide receivers, tight ends, and running backs, and routes on airs and one-on-one. So when you look at this, absolutely, I love it. Big Ben will go into the playoffs fresh, and he will be able to heal whatever's going on in his body, because there's some things, Nick, we just don't know what these players are dealing with. It's just not on the injury report.
It's absolutely right. It's 1,000% the right decision. I think resting guys in week 17, if you have a bye in the playoffs in the first round, which this year only the Chiefs and whoever, Packers, Saints, Seahawks, and the NFC could get it, is a risky decision because rust comes into play. But if you don't have a bye and you're essentially locked into your playoff position, you can give yourself a bye, and that's what Tomlin's doing for his most important player and his oldest player, and it's absolutely the right decision. The Steelers have won the division thanks to the win against Tennessee, so they know no matter what, no matter how the playoff bracket breaks, if they win in round 1 and Buffalo wins in round 1, they're playing Buffalo in round 2 no matter what. Now, this could determine if that game's in Buffalo or Pittsburgh, but given the lack of fans, that probably has less import this year than any other year. And Wilds, this is why the comeback over over Indy this past week was one of the 10 biggest wins any team has had in the NFL all season. There have been 240 games played all year. If we were to rank them in importance, near the top of the list would have been an early game, Packers beating the Saints, because that's the tiebreaker and the reason right now they're the 1 seed. Chiefs beating the Bills would be close by, because had they lost that game, the Bills would right now be the 1 seed. And shortly thereafter on that list is what the Steelers did last week. Because if they lose that game, they now have to play Big Ben in week 17, because it's to win the division. The whether or not they get any home games depends on it. So I think it's a great decision by Tomlin, and a very, very, it makes the comeback over the Colts even bigger in hindsight.
Yep. I'll tell you something that was big. No one's got this take, Brandon. Make you feel better since your Steelers went on a little skid there. I think those losses were probably good. We were talking about undefeated seasons for months, and all of a sudden they lose some games. If they were 15-0 right now, we'd be like, oh my gosh. I think Ben would have to play, as much as people said, like, oh, I don't care about that. Absolutely. I think the undefeated season would be a big thing. So I think losing those games, we should go and retape those shows, Jenna. Retape them and be like, we thought it was a big deal, and we thought it was bad. Actually good for you, Brandon.
Yeah, right. Well,
all right, so
look,
wait, let's talk about
absolutely.
what this...
I couldn't imagine.
Finish your point,
Jenna,
and then
really
I'll jump
quickly,
in.
I couldn't imagine being, in that position if I'm Mike Tomlin, even going back to Bill Belichick. Do you rest your guys when this game really is meaningless, and or do you play to go for a record, right? When the ultimate goal is to win a Super Bowl. If I'm a head coach, general manager, I will struggle making that decision.
So it's a great point. And maybe it's meaningless for the Steelers. It is certainly not meaningless for the Cleveland Browns. In simple terms, a win would very much be nice for this team. A Browns win snaps the NFL's current longest playoff drought. It is 18 years. Boy, Cleveland would love to snap that because it's embarrassing. So for the Browns to make the playoffs, they need to win. Boom. Or a couple other things. They have to have the Colts lose or have Tennessee lose, coupled with Miami and Baltimore wins. But in short, a win and they're in. So, Brandon, let me ask you this. If they don't win and they don't get help after what they put together this year, what do you think it means for Baker and the Browns if they miss the playoffs?
So look, Nick, confession, I might sound like a contradiction here, right? Because you and I see this differently. For me, I truly believe all 32 teams should have one main goal, and that's to win the Super Bowl. You feel like there's some teams out there that's like, look, man, just getting to the playoffs is a win for us. Turning around our franchise is a win for us. So I do believe that, right? But at the end of the day, when the dust settles, they say they lose and they don't make the playoffs. When the dust settles, if I'm Baker Mayfield and the Browns, I do, pop my head up come the end of January, the beginning of February, and I'm like, you know what? We are trending in the right direction. We can build off of this, right? Because you got to start thinking about, what happened the year before and what you can do to build on it and be better. So you have to go through this assessment of the year before. And when you do that and you start thinking about the positive you can take out of it and moving forward, I do think there's a lot that you can be proud of. But at the end of the day, you're still a loser. So Nick, I might sound like a walking contradiction right now, But I don't see the Browns not being in the playoffs.
So here's the thing,
great.
And your take surprised me. My take might surprise you. If they don't make the playoffs, it erases almost all the good they did this year. If you go into the season and say the Browns are going to go 10-6 and miss out on the playoffs due to a tiebreaker, I think if you said that in September, you'd say, okay, maybe not the full expectations of the year, but a step in the right direction. That's if you said it in September. But if you said it 12 days ago, when the Browns were 10-4, and you had the Jets in front of you, and then you've got the Steelers without Big Ben in a game that's somewhat meaningless for them, and say that's how you